whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people.
Whose car are we gonna take?
Back on the Nikki Maduro Show. We have missed your beautiful face, Kim McAllister. I hope your vacation was awesome and you got much needed rest with your birthday boy and family.
It was good. Yeah, we had a good time. You know, it's a little overcast around the Bay Area, including Monterey Bay, but it was beautiful. And yeah, who doesn't love sea air and the waves crashing and
Was it busy at the Monterey Bay Aquarium? Because I know a lot of schools are out.
Not that busy. I mean, there were people, but it wasn't jam-packed.
Awesome. Well, I love that you're back. We've been busy while you've been gone, but I love having you here because I miss your voice every single morning.
You're so nice.
And I saved one of the first topics we're going to do, which is this Alabama ruling. I was like, I'm not talking about it until Kim is here. And of course,
don't you know I have some strong feelings about that?
I know that you do, and that's why I wanted to wait. So we will be talking about Alabama basically saying that frozen embryos have the same rights as living, breathing outside the womb children.
Well, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're also going to, I don't know how many of you used to do the flower babies at school. Did you have a flower baby when you were going through sex ed at school?
No.
You didn't have a bag of flour was your baby? You didn't have that?
We had an egg.
We had an egg too. We had actually both. We did both. So we're going to talk about is this an antiquated thing? Because one mom is done. She's like, no, this is stupid. We need better sex ed than bags of flour and eggs. So that's going to be in that segment. But before we get to any of it, also Jefferson Graham. We did talk about this yesterday for a little bit. He joins us in the second part of the show, and we're going to get his take on something I briefly touched on, which was Apple saying, stop putting your friggin' waterlogged phone in rice, uncooked rice. So Jefferson has some better tips and tricks of what to do if your phone does get wet. So please, you guys, click the thumbs up button. Show your support for the show. I like to be here. Kim likes to be here. And if you like to be here, please do that each and every show. The super chat is also live. It's a way for this crowdfunded show to be funded. So we appreciate you. And we really do love all of the conversations, emails, even comments after the live program on YouTube. So keep it up, and we appreciate you guys. And then, of course, our Patreon is live. Go to theNikkiMaduroShow.com, theNikkiMaduroShow.com, and then click our Patreon link and subscribe. And thank you to those that, when I asked for this, that you guys go in there and you sign up, and it makes all the difference, and it makes it so we can be here every morning to have conversations about fun topics, serious topics, and everything in between. And of course, if you like PayPal, just go to paypal.com, hit that send button, and the email is theNikkiMaduroShow@gmail.com. Okay.
I have to tell you, I really do like PayPal.
I like PayPal too.
I mean, of all of them, I think that's my favorite.
Yeah.
And it's so easy for me because I can never remember credit card numbers. Yeah. So if I'm on a website and it's like, pay with PayPal, I'm like, well, okay then.
That's becoming
done.
PayPal and Apple Pay have become way too. We don't have Apple Pay on this, but Apple Pay, just so easy. And now that I've entered the 21st century and I could do the pay by phone when I'm out and about at the grocery store, sometimes I'm still so very proud of myself, Kim, that I have figured it.
Oh my God. I'm telling you, I had no idea you could swipe your card against the machine.
Oh, your phone.
Okay, let me tell you. No, I'm just talking about the credit card. I was still sticking it in the hole.
Oh yeah, no, I'm over that.
And Julia's like, you don't have to do that. And then I felt like a complete idiot. Yeah. And then over the weekend, I joined the Apple Pay people because we had to pay for parking on Cannery Row.
Yeah.
And they have a different parking system than San Francisco. And so my husband set my phone up with Apple Pay, and he's like, okay, you don't have to. You can pay for things with your phone now. I'm like, I can?
There you go.
Tell me how this works. So now I'm one of you. Yes.
Awesome. Well, speaking of paying for things, my friend, I'm going to share this news story because it's just very complete. You would think that a company as big as Tesla would not be caught in such a bad PR headline, although they have plenty of bad PR headlines, but not for something like this. Not for something, in all honesty, for Tesla, as small as $2,000. But look at what has made the headlines here in my hometown.
The Giving Pies is a beloved business in San Jose's Willow Glen neighborhood. Each pie created with intricate details and care. It's not just local residents in love with the pies. They've caught the attention of Silicon Valley's biggest corporations.
I work with Google, Apple, Adobe, Intuit.
Owner Rodney Sarineta said Tesla reached out to her on Valentine's Day to place an order of 2,000 mini pies to be delivered this week. Sarineta shared emails and texts that were sent between her and Tesla representatives. She sent a quote that a Tesla representative approved. Still, she did not immediately get a payment from Tesla's vendor.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wait, and they're professional, they're a big company, so they, once it's approved, right?
Sarineta said just after 9 p.m. the next day, she got a call from the Tesla representative.
And she said, oh, I'm so sorry, that our vendor hadn't paid you yet. I think they kind of knew. But I have a question for you. Can we double the order?
After speaking with her staff, who planned to work around the clock to double the order, they took on the job. She bought ingredients and turned down other orders, but still hadn't gotten her payment. After following up, she got this text message.
And say, oh, I'm sorry, plans have changed. We're not going to need the order anymore.
The Giving Pies was out more than $2,000, a big hit for the small business. All Sarineta was told was that the decision came from upper management. She posted what happened to her on social media, where it got plenty of attention. ABC7 reached out to Tesla and did not hear back. But while we were doing our interview at the Giving Pies late afternoon, someone with Tesla finally reached out to her.
Explaining to me what happened, that it was miscommunication, that the employee, Laura, had no authority to promise any payment.
They offered to find a way to still buy pies from her, something Sarineta says for now she's hesitant to commit to. After this experience, she said she's reevaluating how she does business with larger corporations. Despite the disappointment, there's also a sense of gratitude to many customers who came in here and nearly cleared out this display case after seeing the story posted on social media.
You got to help your community, the people that make your community, the merchants who are in your community, because if you don't help them, no one else is.
Sarineta hopes that by sharing this story, larger corporations can be reminded to respect small businesses.
I don't want them to feel like, we can do whatever. No, it's people's lives that they are affecting, and I want them to know.
Exactly. So, guess what I had delivered this morning? I have some Giving Pies here. So I've heard of Giving
pies from her.
I did buy pies.
This is so good.
Yeah. So
you know what she's going to have to do? She's going to have to go the route of many businesses. When you call an order, before they even pick up a spoon to make your food, you pay.
Exactly.
Oh, a credit card number? Okay, got it. That's what she has to do.
Now, if you want to support the Giving Pies, now this is here in San Jose. It's on Alma Avenue. It's right in Willow Glen. Order the mini ones because that's what the Tesla ordered. And they are so freaking cute. Look at these cute little pies.
Wait, they're so tiny.
They're mini pies. That's why they ordered so many of them. I can imagine it was for some sort of, you're not going to give everybody at a conference or whatever a gigantic pie. These are perfect. So I got, let's open this up here.
Boy, they really threw Laura under the bus there, didn't they? I'm like, Laura, sucks to be you right now, sister. Wow.
Yeah, they hella called out Laura.
Laura didn't have authorization. Wow.
Okay, so here is.
Liz wants to know, will Laura be fired?
I would think that Laura's going to at least have a stern talking to.
Shoot.
Look at that. That is the key lime pie.
Oh, that looks delicious.
Look how perfect these little pies are.
And how much are they?
They're very reasonable. I think this was like $3 and change.
Oh, wow.
So each, they're not bad. I mean, it's these are handmade. And the thing, when I was reading, Elon has a pie on his face. All right, I want to taste this. But again, order the mini pies because I was reading on that social media post because I was going to order a bigger pie just because my daughter's birthday is tomorrow. I'm like, oh, we can have pie. But no, they make the pies to order every day. So they make the crusts ahead of time. So she basically is stuck with all of these crusts that she now has to fill and then sell. So that's why you want to buy the mini one. So and then let me show the other one. And then you guys let me know which one I should try because I'm not going to eat both right now. And this is the apple pie. Oh, I
Ooh.
just got crumble all over my thing. The crumble is good. There's the apple pie. That looks really,
delicious.
Really now I got it. Hold on. I got to swipe all this crap off my computer.
I'm kind of sad that I can't order these right now.
Exactly. I know. Everyone's like, I don't live local enough. I DoorDashed it and I shouldn't have, but I like decided it when I was still getting ready for work and I just did not have time to drive over there. Even though it would have been a 10-minute there and back, I have to, get behind the computer. So I did have these DoorDashed. I would say with DoorDash, it's probably $16. That's why it's so terrible to get DoorDash. But they put my name on the receipt with a happy face. And I think that they're probably getting a lot of orders this morning. So if you're in the San Jose area, you guys, the Giving Pies, it's in Willow Glen. Buy them up. Yes, SJ Lola. Exactly. They're pretty close to me. I'm buying a pie today.
Nice.
And they have savory pies. The bigger, I don't know if I don't know the menu off the top of my head, but they have like crab pies. They have a vegetarian pie. Like they have so many from sweet to savory. So go check them out. I don't mind doing a free advertisement for them and doing an early Friday food segment because that's what they need. I don't know how long these pie crusts last, but help them out because Tesla sucks by doing that, So that's it's not good. It's not good. It's not good at all. Yeah, Randy, Tesla did screw those people over, and throwing Laura only under the bus kind of sucks. I am sure I've worked in many offices as like an admin, right? Back in my early younger days. You're just told to do something. Hey, call this company. They have pretty good buys. Order that many. You're like, hey, I got the order. And they're like, you know what? I think the number is going to have to be closer to whatever. Double it. Okay, great. I'm going to call. And then you're not even thinking that it's not going to go through. And then all of a sudden, guess what? You're low man on the totem pole. You're going to get the blame and the shout out on television as being to blame.
Well, they don't have a PR department at Tesla. Remember, they fired it.
Right, that's
and
true.
So now if you have a media question, you call them or email them and they say, we don't have anybody in this department, but thank you for, they say nothing to you.
Exactly. And Doug, you're right. I don't understand why Tesla would even want the bad headline. All of you say like Elon has that in his couch cushion. Like it's not that much.
That's $2,000 to make this whole thing go away.
Exactly.
Done.
But they don't care. No. Janet says you would not believe what you have to go through to be a Tesla vendor. I had a 20-minute phone call with them just to verify changing our bank information with them.
Oh, man.
I mean, you would think with all of those hoops that they wouldn't, they wouldn't have a problem like this. Good. I'll try Giving Pies tomorrow, Nikki. Good, Dan. I'm really, really happy. So I will eat those. I'm not going to eat them right now.
That is a lot. I mean,
that's
imagine how much when they doubled the order, she had to go buy all that stuff.
And she turned away other orders, and they're handmade. You saw them. They make those little bitty crusts, stuff them up, make them to order. Like, come on. This isn't just, a machine in the back that just churned them out. There's some love there. And so Anonymous says they don't care about bad press. They're too big to fail at this point. Too many Tesla fanboys out there. We were talking, and I know that you've done this on the after party, the
rust bucket story.
Yeah, the rusting of and I'm not even kidding. On Monday, because I worked in San Francisco, I was driving home and I drove right next to one for so long, and I kept looking at it because it wasn't raining too hard, but it had been raining that day, and I was like, you better go wipe your car off or paint it.
Can you believe that you would pay that much for a truck?
Exactly.
And it not comes even a truck. To you with and you have to baby it. Like you have to get out there and wipe it down every day. Like be one of those dorks in the driveways shining your car every day.
Yeah, no.
Weird.
Jess, thank you so much for the $5 donation. Galactic Duo shines through. Thank you, Jeff, for the super chat. We really, really do appreciate it. Okay, one more thing before we get into our embryos children.
Also,
did you go ahead?
I love the name Jess.
Do you? I like that name. Jess. My sister-in-law's name it's Jessica. I'm assuming Jess, you're Jessica. Maybe you're not. Maybe you just go by Jess. Are there any Jesses out there?
I have a great grandfather named Jess and a cousin named Jess after him.
Are they both boys?
Yeah.
Not Jesse?
Jess.
Just Jess.
Well, it was Jesse, but everyone calls him Jess.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Like Jess and Jess. I apologize. I don't know if you're a man or a woman.
I just like the name Jess.
Jess.
You don't hear it very often for a man, and I like it.
Reminds me of wasn't the Gilmore Girls guy named Jess?
Oh, how do I not know this?
I think the boy was. Yeah, I think the guy from This Is Us that grew up to be the guy from, isn't that Jess? Jesse? Jess? I thought so. Anyways. Yeah, how do you not know this? You're supposed to be my Gilmore Girl
I know. Fail.
How many of you lost your internet though this morning? Apparently there's this huge network service outage. AT&T is the main one being affected. Although Verizon T-Mobile customers also reported, AT&T seems to be getting the most. More than 73,000 AT&T customers reported outages. It's, let's see, outages fell a bit in the 5 a.m. Eastern, so what, 2 a.m. our time. So it was overnight that this happened. But one of the reporters at KTVU didn't have the internet. The only reason I bring this up, I didn't lose my internet. I don't know how many of you did as well. But do you want to know what they advised people to do, Kim? If your cell phone and internet outage is not working, use a landline. Oh, you mean the landlines
that you want to take away? What a
Yeah,
bunch of jerks.
I swear to God. And then they're like, and if you don't have a landline, contact someone that does have service. Now, I kept saying how. Of course, if you have Wi-Fi, but then why would that work and your cell phone not work? It's so silly.
What if you have an emergency and you have to call 911 and now your cell phone doesn't work? And oh no.
That, I mean, if there was ever a perfect story of why you should not lose landlines, that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a landline, but still, like, I feel like I could run around with my hair on fire and find somebody that does. Dozens of AT&T, went without text and phone service in the early hours. Other carriers reliant on AT&T also went out. So I didn't lose mine, but again, I just had to bring that up because they were so talking about getting rid of landlines, and it's like, wait a minute. Okay, no. All right, let's do some headlines first because I feel like this is going to be a long conversation. But when we after Kim's headlines, I want to talk about Alabama's Supreme Court. They ruled that frozen embryos are children. Now, I am going to just ask the question. And I'm not, I will, of course, share my own opinion about the whole thing. But it's really delicate because I literally, when this story broke yesterday, actually, because it was kind of in the works. We knew this was coming for a couple of days. I just found out that a friend of mine that I've known for many, many years is having another baby through IVF. Okay. And I'm so happy for her. Right. And the reason why I'm telling you this is, I, in my mind, am saying, oh, she's having a baby, right? Like, that is what I am saying. But does that mean, now, again, this is already implanted. She has a, ultrasound. This embryo has developed, right, to a fetus and everything like that. At what point do you personally, and I'm not going to, we'll talk science and everything like that, personally feel like this is my child so much so that they deserve the rights and protections. Okay. So I want you guys to mull that over a little bit. I can't wait to get Kim's take on this as well, because it matters. And how far down this road are we really going to go? So let me know in the comments. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about how many of you learned anything about raising children by carrying an egg or a bag of flour around when you were a teenager. Click the thumbs up button to show your support for the show. We'll get into it next, right after Kim's news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Maduro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Well, thousands of people across the country, as you mentioned, Nikki, are impacted by cell phone outages. AT&T said some of its customers are experiencing interruption and are encouraged to use the Wi-Fi calling until service is restored. The carrier added 3/4 of its network is back up. They didn't have a timeline for when it would be fully restored. So I guess fingers crossed, and we'll just keep on hoping they get it all together. President Biden has some strong words for Russian President Vladimir Putin during a fundraiser in San Francisco last night. The president called Putin a crazy SOB. He warned that there's always the threat of nuclear conflict, but noted the existential threat to humanity is climate change. President Biden's verbal attacks against Putin come after the death of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny. Police in Oklahoma say the death of a teen that happened one day after a fight at their school was not caused by trauma. Nex Benedict, who identified as non-binary, died earlier this month. It happened, though, the day after Nex told her family they and another student were involved in an altercation with 3 older girls at Owasso High School. So it's not yet clear if their gender identities had a role in that altercation or not. China sending back more pandas to the United States in a sign of improving diplomatic relations between our two countries. And today, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said an agreement with the San Diego Zoo has been signed on a new round of international cooperation in the protection of giant pandas. An agreement is also being worked on with the Washington National Zoo. So San Diego and Washington, maybe not San Francisco, even though Mayor London Breed had wanted that.
She wanted it, and now you have to cue, like, what are we going to name the pandas? And but they are really cute. They're mean, though. You shouldn't go encounter them in the wild, but they are very, very cute.
Again, mentioning President Biden is in California. He's ending his trip here today. One more event, though, for the re-election campaign in the Bay Area before heading back to the White House. He flew into San Francisco yesterday afternoon to talk to supporters about his accomplishments after fundraisers in Los Angeles. It's also where he gave a speech on canceling even more student debt. It is the president's third visit in just over 2 months. There is a new push to have the state right historical wrongs of slavery. A group of lawmakers detailing a package of 14 reparation bills yesterday deemed the first step in a multi-year effort. California's Legislative Black Caucus wants a formal apology from the governor for human rights violations. They are also proposing to restore property taken in race-based cases of eminent domain. None of the bills call for any cash payments.
Interesting. I mean, this is going to be a really difficult thing to figure out. And sometimes I feel like I don't have enough skin in the game to have an opinion about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Lastly, this is I don't know, it's kind of a changing of the guard, you could say. I don't know.
Oh, is that Tiger's son?
It is. Tiger Woods' 15-year-old son is looking to compete on the PGA Tour. This is him when he was a little younger. Charlie Woods will play in today's pre-qualifier for the Cognizant Classic at the Lost Lake Golf Club in Hobe Sound, Florida. Around 25 players will advance to the event's Monday qualifier, where 4 will earn spots in the Cognizant Classic next weekend. The tournament will be played from February 29th through March 3rd at the PGA Nationals Champion Course in Palm Beach Gardens. The younger Woods has competed alongside his dad in previous years. Tiger has even caddied for him in the past. So now Charlie Woods is getting into the PGA Tour.
Wow. I mean, obviously, if you grow up and your dad is Tiger Woods, right? And they apparently, did you see this video? They have the same like mannerisms, walking style, kind of things like that. It's really, really cute. So he's a cute kid.
Yeah. This report is crowdfunded and it is sponsored by you, which means we do rely on you to fund this Nikki Maduro show that we so adore. You can find us at thenikkimaduroshow.com, thenikkimaduroshow.com, Patreon, PayPal. It's all there for you in black and white. You got it. Yeah, I'm Kim McAllister, and this is the Nikki Maduro Show.
Thank you, Kim. We love having you back. And yes, please sign up for our Patreon because we love to have these kind of conversations, which this one's going to be a bit of a difficult one. I have a hard time talking about the debate regarding when life begins because there is the mother in me. Right? There's the guilty Catholic in me. There's also the American taxpayer in me. And I know that sometimes when I say that, people are like, that is awful how you compare it to something like that. And it's like, well, wait a minute. How are we really considering people that are covered by our Constitution, right? The protections, the constitutional rights, Social Security numbers. Like, when is it determined that you are so much of a person that you have certain rights? I'm going to play you a little bit of this news report just to kind of set this up. And let me just turn up the volume on it before I share my screen. Just to kind of set it up. So this is in Alabama, which, I mean, could there be any other state that does this? Talking about IVF, and now it's stopped. Like a major hospital, just to kind of do spoiler alert, has stopped doing IVF treatments because of this ruling. Here we go.
And not just in Alabama. Liberty Counsel, a conservative Christian litigation group, has asked the Florida Supreme Court to consider Alabama's IVF decision before ruling on a pending ballot measure that would codify abortion access in Florida. And it seems like the Liberty Counsel might have a supporter on the Florida bench. In a hearing earlier this month, Florida Chief Justice Carlos Muniz floated the idea of fetal personhood, noting that the court hasn't yet taken a position on whether the state's constitution protects an unborn child at any stage of pregnancy. Joining me now is Erin Carmone, senior correspondent at New York Magazine and co-author of notorious RBG, The Life and Times of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Erin, thank you for being here tonight and helping me make sense of this. I mean, do you think what we're witnessing in real time here is potentially the death knell of IVF in red states across America, much like abortion access?
It certainly looks like it's headed that way in Alabama. But, I want to step back for a second. In 2011, I went to Mississippi to cover a personhood ballot measure in one of the most conservative states, very similar to Alabama. It failed because people pointed out that fetal personhood would naturally lead to restricting IVF. And there were enough people in the state who rebelled against that and voted against it. But Alabama has been on this track to embrace fetal personhood from the beginning. And they did it in ways that did not immediately capture attention the way upper middle class people who can afford IVF, who want to be parents, can. So they first started prosecuting pregnant people who use drugs. The Alabama State Supreme Court said more than 10 years ago that you could charge pregnant people with chemical endangerment and that fetuses were children for the purposes of that law. They separately also said, even before Roe v. Wade, that Alabama's constitution protected fetuses and embryos as persons. So there's some incoherence here. There was also this state lawmaker in Alabama who said when one of the abortion bans was being debated, he said, no, this doesn't cover the embryo in the lab because it's not inside a woman. Right? So there's still some part of the movement that hasn't quite figured out what it wants to do with respect to IVF, which is enormously popular. It helps people build their family regardless of circumstance. But it seems like the wing that is ascendant right now is the absolutist. You mentioned this deeply religious language in the concurrence, this fetal personhood above all that once was considered marginal has become extremely powerful. And so when it was people who use drugs, or Alabama even had somebody, even appointed a lawyer for a fetus when a teen was seeking a judicial bypass for an abortion. So when it was the abortion patient, when it was the drug user, then it was the woman who had the miscarriage. Now it's the woman who would, or the family that would like to have more children. It is really a question fundamentally of reproductive control that is affecting people in all different circumstances and decisions of pregnancy.
Yeah, well, and I would assume that reality of who this affects, first of all, people that actively want to have children,
exactly.
Right? Which is not necessarily the case when you're talking about abortion, but this is all people who want to procreate. Many of them are wealthy, and I'm sure plenty of them are Republicans. Some of them are not wealthy, but the fact is, when you talk about constituencies, I'm having a hard time understanding how this is. I'm setting aside the morals and ethics here for a moment, but just politically, like how this is advantageous for conservatives to run on.
Well, it's not unheard of for states to restrict IVF. It was done in Italy. It was done in Poland under different governments. It's not popular. It didn't last, but it is theoretically possible for this to happen. I think it just needs to be seen in the context of, even though it is fundamentally irrational, some people have said it's ironic, it's irrational. They are willing to go this far to enshrine into law. They're willing to even prevent babies from being born. In order to prove a point, ultimately a religious point about the value of a frozen embryo being above the desires of living people on this earth.
Okay, so let's just end it there. Okay, so just to kind of give you the nuts and bolts here. The Alabama Supreme Court ruled frozen embryos can be considered children under the state law. So IVF, and again, I'm obviously learning. I've never done IVF. But it offers, obviously, the solution to women who have trouble getting pregnant. They retrieve the eggs. They put them in a lab dish with the man's sperm. They create a fertilized embryo. It's done in cycles. And then they implant it. And hopefully then it grows to be an actual child. Okay? Thoughts, Kim, when you first saw the headline?
Number one, the religious right is trying to scoop in and take over America and my rights. Let me, shall we, regardless of the separation in church and state, read you the Alabama Constitution. Get a load of this. This is this is why the Alabama Supreme Court could come down this way. All right.
Okay.
I mean, it's crazy. This is cray. Alabama Constitution Section 36.06 argues each person was made in God's image, meaning each life has an incalculable value that cannot be wrongfully destroyed without incurring the wrath of a holy God. Section 36.06 recognizes this is true of unborn human life no less than it is of all other human life, that even before birth, all human beings bear the image of God, and their lives cannot be destroyed without effacing his glory. That's their state constitution.
Yeah, it's their state constitution. Yes.
Okay, so I mean, okay, this is what they want. The people of Alabama, this is who they are. This is what they've based their. I mean, I'll tell you this. And this is my new goal this year, at least for the next couple of months. I have not completely cover to cover read our state constitution.
Right.
Like I have our federal constitution. Have you?
Right. No. I mean, I know what I feel like there's all kinds of things that I love in it, but I should probably read to make sure it doesn't have that nonsense in it.
Exactly. I mean, there could be some crazy stuff like that lurking in our constitution. I'd like to know. So I'm going to read it. But okay, so their argument is God and holy and religion and blah, blah, blah. So let's just take that.
Mm-hmm.
I would not have children if it weren't for IVF.
Right.
So let me just say that. I had IVF 4 times. The first time I got lucky and I had Julia. Then I tried for Jacob and I got him on the 3rd try. So that's 4 times that I went through this at UCSF. I'm so lucky. You guys know how much I love my kids. Mm-hmm. You know how wanted and loved these kids are.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have had them without IVF, as is my right. And it's my right to abort them. And it's my right to try to have them. And it's my right, whatever, because I'm in charge of my body and what I want to do with it. Right?
Exactly.
But okay, all that aside, now you know how I really feel, right? But let's break down religion a little bit. I always thought for the people that say, oh, you shouldn't have IVF because only God, the magic of God can make children, right? When you have IVF, they take the eggs, they take the sperm, they mix them up in a dish, and not all of them are successful.
Right.
So what is it about the ones that magically are fertilized versus the ones that aren't? Mm-hmm. Is there the magic of God happening in the lab? Maybe. Who's to say there isn't?
Right.
When they put them in the uterus, not all of them take. As a matter of fact, most of them don't. So what's to say about that one magic egg, that one magic Jacob egg that's stuck in?
Yeah.
Is that the magic of God? Who are you to say where God shows up in, quote, all of his holiness or whatever it is, right? Who are you to say where God arrives and makes him or herself known?
Right.
Who are you to say this? It might not happen. It might happen on a drunken Friday night, behind a truck stop, or it might happen in a lab.
Yeah,
How dare you try to tell me where God shows up?
And is God not in the science behind IVF?
If God didn't want us to know how to do these things, maybe God wouldn't have given us this knowledge.
Exactly. And that's, whenever we talk about science and religion, I mean, come on. It's our ability to even do this that is a miracle as well. It's a miracle for so many people. I mean, look at who we're talking about. We are talking about people that want to have children. Now, devil's advocate, I could say, well, if there's fewer people having IVF, then maybe those same people will go to the orphanages and get all the children we keep talking about that aren't being adopted, perhaps. But then there's the question of when life begins. Okay. And this is what, and I'm going to be a little crass. So if you're religious, don't come at me. But I mean, really, we're going to go down this road. If frozen embryos are children, okay, if they're children where you can, get murder charges if you destroy, okay, then why ever implant them? They're easy. All you have to do is have a freezer, a cold enough freezer. They'll never backtalk you, right? They won't ask for the keys to the car and drink and drive. You never have to worry about them. They'll eat nothing. The food bill will go way down.
How many kids do you have?
I'm
24 in the deep freeze.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'm joking, but really, let's think about this. You're telling me with a straight face, Alabama, that those frozen embryos are children. If those are children, then keep them that way. But they're not. They are the potential of children. And I understand the case that a lot of people mention, of course, is that company that the freezer went wacky and all of these frozen embryos were destroyed. Someone also dropped frozen embryos.
This was the case in Alabama. There was a patient in a hospital that ran to the freezer and grabbed a tube and dropped it on the floor.
Exactly. And
murder.
And I understand the devastation that must be involved. If I had frozen embryos and something bad happened, I would mourn the potential of having those children. Yeah. I would not truly believe those are kids. Those aren't kids. Yeah, even the frozen child. I mean, I just, again, and I'm not trying to make light of something.
No,
but
it's asinine.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to think that frozen embryos are children, because if they are, then why even continue development? If they are, what are you? They're not viable. I can't sit in the freaking freezer for the rest of my life and live. Come on, you guys. This is getting ridiculous. And I am scared that a back-assward state like Alabama, a decision made there could literally have ripple effects across the country for people. And I have friends that live in some of these red states. And again, the friend that I was telling you about lives in Utah. You know what I mean?
Well, she got in just under the wire, it seems.
But I mean, how can how can conservatives who need IVF, who use IVF, who had children through IVF, be like, this is my political party? They have their finger on the pulse of what the big problems are, because this is what we've been asking for, is to tell people that just want children, no, those frozen embryos are kids.
That's what an embryo looks like, right? Usually it's a numbers game. The more eggs that they retrieve from you and fertilize, the better off you are. Yeah. Well, by day 3 or 5, many of them fall away, and most women are left with not very many at the end.
And are you supposed to have a funeral for each of those that fall away? Are we supposed to have funerals for them?
It's shocking, but no, they just expect it. Yeah. You know, it's kind of nature. That's just what happens. But these are the cells that are splitting, and this is what it looks like. Let me tell you, this embryo could not survive unless it was attached inside of a woman, right? Splitting and sucking nutrients.
Exactly.
Right? So I argue that it's not a child until it can survive on its own. Mm-hmm. Right? If you get to the point in a pregnancy where, even early, a child can be born and can, the hospital can, nurses and doctors, maybe it's touch and go there, but the child manages to live. Well, that's one thing.
Right.
But at this stage, this is not life that can be supported by itself.
Exactly.
And without any help, this thing just falls away.
Yeah.
That's not a child.
And it's so hard, because I understand the emotion attached to this, but I think that we're getting really ridiculous.
It's a clump of cells. Look at it.
Exactly.
It's a clump of cells that splits. Is it, as you say, and I love the way you put this, the promise of a child, the hope of a child?
Yes.
Yes, we all hope.
Of course.
Right? Especially people that can't have children that are desperate. Yes, we hope this ends up eventually
being my child,
growing into a child. We hope this. But is it a child?
No.
It is not a child. That is not a child.
And I don't care what you say and what you could believe it. Like, I'm sorry, nobody's taking that picture that you just showed, putting it in a frame, putting it like, that's our kid right there. I mean, nobody's doing that because it's not a kid yet. Yeah. And it's like,
I do have pictures like that, and they are in the baby book.
Well, but why? Because that cell grew into Julia, grew into Jacob.
Because I don't hide it. Because I want them to know how loved they are, how wanted they were, how much I worked to try to have them. That this is how, I don't shy away from, this is how you were created.
Exactly.
They know. This is not a secret. I think this is amazing.
Like, it's just, and again, Kim, when you're going through the process of IVF, right? And you find out that it's successful, and you say, I'm pregnant. Like, it's still the potential. So 15 years ago today, I was in my second day of labor. Okay. I was in labor for 2 days. It started yesterday, 15 years ago, and it doesn't finish until tomorrow. Okay. And it was with Marley, my first kid. And I remember before I gave birth, all I kept, everyone was like, what do you want, a boy or a girl? Because I wasn't finding out the gender of it, right? And I was just like, a healthy baby. And even in that phrase, there's the truth. It's like, I don't have my child yet. Yes, I could feel him or her moving inside my belly. I can feel all that.
Happen.
I don't have my child yet. No. I don't. Anything can happen. Now, would I be devastated? Would I be like, I lost my baby if I lost that child? Yes, that verbiage does not extend to everybody and everything. Eric makes a great comment. It's an old adage. You have a 6-month-old and a tray of embryos in a burning building. Which are you going to save? And I would say if it was my 6-month-old baby, I'd go for the 6-month-old baby. If it was my embryos, I'd still go for the 6-month-old baby.
Right.
Why?
That's exactly
it's a child in there.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. And then I'd probably go back. Maybe try to get both if it was my tray of embryos. I understand the emotion and the connection involved in it. The work, the pain, the shots, right? All of the things you have to go through to even get to that point. And it's hard and it's painful. Another person who should know about IVF, of course, is Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley, who was being interviewed about this exact thing.
You make news every day, Governor Haley, but today you're making news because you agreed with the Alabama Supreme Court that ruled that embryos are people. And today you said, yes, you believe they're people too. I think that troubled many people, especially women who are going through IVF treatments. We're hearing reports already about fertility clinics that are shutting down because they're worried. What do you say to women that are now concerned about that and your position in that particular issue?
Well, first of all, I didn't say that I agreed with the Alabama ruling. What the question that I was asked is, do I believe an embryo is a baby? I do think that if you look in the definition, an embryo is considered an unborn baby. And so, yes, I believe from my stance that is. The difference is, and this is what I say about abortion as well, we need to treat these issues with the utmost respect. I had trouble having both of my children. I am very aware of what it means to go through artificial insemination, all of those things related to in vitro. I know what that is. And I also know the importance between a doctor and the parents is very important to have those conversations. This case was based on and should be based on the rights of those parents for their embryos and to make sure that they have the responsibility with the doctors on how those are handled. Nothing more than that. And I will continue to say these issues keep coming up. And everybody wants to divide people on these issues. This is not the time where you divide people, you bring people together. Our goal is to always do what the parents want with their embryo. It is theirs. So any physician that is in control of those embryos, they owe it to those people to make sure they protect that embryo and that they do with that embryo what those parents want done with that embryo. That is the way we should look at that.
Unless it's implanted in your own uterus, of course. Because then I have no say. And then apparently when I am the lab dish, when I'm the incubator of it all, then I have no right to say what happens to that embryo, apparently, Nikki.
But I agree with her in principle when she says, hey, if, I've entrusted UC San Francisco to, keep track of my eggs, my embryos for however many days while they're growing until they're implanted, do they have an obligation to keep track of them and take good care of them? Yes. Yeah. Make sure they're growing, do what the contract says that they should do.
Exactly.
But it's the language, and language is really important. You don't call an embryo an unborn baby because you see where this leads.
It's not, though.
It's not, and then they start stripping away rights. You don't call a fetus an unborn baby. You call it a fetus. Why? Because the minute you call it an unborn baby, the holy rollers come out trying to take your rights away. So you can't do that.
And they blow up that image of the fetus that's probably the size of your fingernail to make it look like it's this gigantic baby, and it's not. BA says, if an embryo is a person, so are the millions of skin cells you shed during the segment, Ms. Haley. True. I want to correct Joe Blow. Scott Peterson was charged with 2 murders, even though Lacey was a few months along. She was 9 months pregnant. Yeah. Lacey Peterson was when she died. So much so that when they found her body, she had expelled Connor. The baby was floating in the water. And again, that's a great point, though, right? Like, if you murder a pregnant woman, are you charged with 2 murders? It's a good debate to have.
It is. In some states, the answer is no, and it's specifically because of the abortion debate.
Yeah,
but I
exactly.
think you get to a point where it's obvious. Like if she's a week out of her due date, come on, you know? James Watson says, regarding Haley, she's a breath of fresh air. She'll take away your rights with the utmost respect.
I love that. Exactly. With the utmost respect, I give more rights to people that have frozen embryos because I went through that. That's what Nikki Haley's basically saying. I went through it. I know it. So I have utmost respect. But because it's the other way, no, she has no respect. Yeah, Natalie, does Alabama let them take a tax deduction for each frozen embryo? Do you have to pay child support? Here's a good question. If Alabama says frozen embryos are children, and I take out life insurance on every single one of those embryos, if they are not successful and they go away, do I get paid by the insurance company for each of those lives? I mean, do they get a social security number? Do I have to enroll them in school, or can I get into the early, admission for these potential children that are coming?
As someone mentioned earlier, can you drive in the carpool lane?
Exactly. That's been a common debate. And pregnant women, there's always one pregnant woman every year that always gets caught doing that. And again, if it's a person, it's just sitting on my lap, apparently. It sucks, man. We are going backwards in this country. An embryo has more rights in Alabama than living, breathing adult women. Isn't that scary? And it's not as if Alabama is taking care of the living, breathing people there. I mean, it's not one of the top education, top wealth states out there. Lacey Peterson was carrying a baby. That child could have survived outside the womb.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's my point.
Yeah.
If it can survive on its own, now you're cooking with a different kind of fire, right?
Right.
But
people aren't aborting babies at that age.
No.
That's at that farther along in the pregnancy. They're not. It's something terrible has happened if you lose a baby after that certain week, right? What is it? 24 weeks is what we used to have in California. Because then it's viable outside of the womb, outside of, the lab dish or the incubator, or I don't know, the mom, right? Calvin says, I'm sure another gun nut will break into an IVF company and yell, let the children free. Yeah, where's what was it, Pizza Planet or whatever? The Hillary Clinton, is that the child's trafficking that we're having to go, that we're seeing right now is at IVF clinics everywhere. They have these poor children, in quotes, frozen. Let them out. Like, it's crazy.
This is really scary. So this is happening in Alabama, right? And also now Florida is getting in on the mix.
Exactly.
And they've got a bill. They're trying to,
of course they
I don't know, if eliminate or restrict reproductive health for women.
And again, it's expensive. I don't know how much you paid, but it can cost between $15,000 and $25,000 according to this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, imagine how many times people try. And so again, when I played that MSNBC part, it's like, these are affluence. And I'm using that because affluence differs depending on where you live.
I was
But
desperate.
people that can't afford it, that's what I mean. People that can afford it can do this. If you're poor, you can't get IVF.
The last time that I thought, this is it. Like, I have one more try left in me, and if it doesn't happen, then I'm not going to have a second child, right? We took out a medical loan.
Oh, wow.
It was a $30,000 medical loan.
But not everybody can do that.
Well, we didn't have the money, and it was a last hurrah. And I thought, if I don't do it, if I don't try one more time, I'll regret it.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And we put ourselves in serious debt in order to have him. So yeah, I mean, no, it's not only affluent people. It's people who are, who have this deep-seated need to be a mother for whatever reason.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like it doesn't make political sense. And it's as if they're not reading the room, these Republicans. And again, I will say this is Alabama. This is their courts, but it's their high court, right? It's the Alabama Supreme Court that did this. Now, what can we do? I mean, here in California, somebody said, yeah, Vilma, so happy we live in California. But again, you could see how these can have ripple effects where all of a sudden you get the wrong people in the White House, you get the wrong people in charge. And all of a sudden you're looking around and we've gone back decades in progress for these sorts of things. I mean, who is unhappy to hear that somebody has gotten pregnant that's been trying through IVF? They're taking away that opportunity for women and men. right?
It's joyful because you
exactly.
know how much that person wants it. Here's the beauty of who we are. I can be this person who desperately wanted to have kids.
Right.
And someone else in the chat can be someone who never wanted to have kids.
Right.
Right? And that can be fine. And we can be women and we can go on about our lives and we can be friends and we can have experiences in common and whatever. And we both have different journeys on this reproductive health cycle, right?
Yeah.
And that should be able to be okay. I don't know why the government feels it needs to protect God. Don't you think God's able to protect God? And if God didn't want children to be made via IVF or embryos to be made via IVF or what have you, then God would have, the first time they put that thing in a dish, God would have been like, yeah, no, that's my job. You can't do this.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And so who do we think we are, honestly, trying to legislate what God wants? What do you think you know? You don't know anything.
There's a lot of
who
people
knows?
God
knows. That's it.
But there's a lot of people that look around this country and this world and say the problem, the reason why this is just because I can sometimes run in these circles. The reason the world is going to hell in a handbasket is because there's not enough God. There's no prayer in the classroom anymore. And people are turning away from the church. You want to know why people turn away from the church? You want to know why a lot of people turned away specifically from the Catholic Church is because the priests were molesting children. You want the hypocrisy involved in so-called Catholics and Christians not calling out their own church loud enough over it. Targeting transgender people when the priests at the pulpit are the ones that are molesting their children. That, at least for me personally, the hypocrisy of it all is what just makes me go, you know what? I can have my own relationship. I don't need you telling me, especially politically, what I need to believe. And that's why I'm a lapsed Catholic.
This is Heather. What I was thinking of you a moment ago when I was speaking, Heather. She says, I desperately wanted to get sterilized, but even that was denied to me for 20 years. The control over women's bodies need to stop. This is what they will tell you. This is from what I understand, Heather. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you are a younger woman and you go to the gynecologist and you say, listen, I don't want to have kids ever.
Yep.
I need you to just clip those tubes. I need to be done.
Yep.
Right? They will say, well, you're still young. You could change your mind. You're not really old enough. You're not old enough to do this yet. Come back in a few years. You come back in a few years and they say, we're really not comfortable doing this yet. You have a few childbearing years left. Why don't you just chill and wait? And so this is what we deal with, how they control women. You know, here you have someone who doesn't want. Then you've got people who do want. But you know who gets to pick? Some dude in a white coat somewhere, or some dude sitting behind a judicial bench somewhere.
Yep.
Nope.
I mean, it's ridiculous. And again, men, and I'm just going to use the word men because obviously a lot of these higher up positions are held by men who don't even understand. I would love it if that judge in Florida that's considering it and the Alabama Supreme Court would literally give me the science behind a woman's reproductive system. You know, explain to me why a woman might need IVF. Explain the IVF process. Explain, you know, the different stages from zygote to child, right? And then you tell me at what point do we give it a social security number, right? It's just, I don't know why this attack on women, and it is just women, is decided so much by men who don't understand it. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it's sad and it's frightening. And I feel for women in Alabama and in Florida and honestly in this entire country, because what happens, even if they do live in Alabama, even if you voted for those ass backwards Republicans, you're a woman and I care about your rights being taken away from you.
This is incredible. Heather says, oh my God, it was awful. Especially, what if your future husband wants kids? Like some non-existent dude has more control over my body than me.
Exactly. Isn't that
I just
nuts?
gave me the chills. Oh, what they will do to us. And here's the crazy thing. Growing up in California, you know, I always thought I have the same rights as men. I don't feel oppressed. I feel, but it's these things like this that you realize you're like, oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, even being a virgin, Kim, being a virgin, you have to save your virginity for marriage. You think high school, college boys are feeling the pressure? And I know there's some men, I'm not going to say that there aren't men that want to keep their virginity for marriage or whatever, but it is a thing for women to keep. Don't give it to just anybody. Give what to anybody? Have a sexual relationship if I choose to have one? God forbid, right? Like, it is this idea that a woman has to be pure, but a man does not. We are giving ourselves to said man. What if your husband wants to have a child? Well, then he should probably marry somebody else, or we have to look into adopting. That's the answer, and the only answer. It's not, oh, well, I guess I should do something I truly don't want to do because my man might want it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so nuts to say out loud, and yet there are so many people that actually believe that, and that raise their children to believe that. Yeah, Liz, they probably don't believe in science. They believe in the Bible. The Bible tells them everything they need to. And there's nothing wrong with believing in the Bible. Let me just go on record and say there's nothing wrong if you choose to believe in organized religion. But that organized religion and their rules and their laws and their rituals only applies to you. That's it. Not me, not anybody else.
The juxtaposition between the denial of women to have control over their bodies versus men.
Yeah.
And Heather said the same thing. Lori says, I wanted my tubes tied at 19. They wouldn't do it. Boyfriend got a vasectomy at 25. They tried to discourage it, but they still did it.
Exactly. And again, it's like, who are you to tell me what I know best for me? And if I regret it, that's my regret. That's my regret. Just like tattoos, right? Like, or whatever. It's, I've done this. I have to live with the consequences. And I don't think that a doctor should lose sleep over, God, I shouldn't have done that procedure. What if her husband wants children? Don't worry about my future non-existent husband at this point. You know, like, oh my God.
Then I will tell him that I can't have children, and then he'll make his decision.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Leave my decision out of his decision. How about that?
I love Eric. They sure as hell aren't going to ban Viagra as against God's will. Yeah, exactly. If you can't get it up, that's God's will. So you don't get to take the little blue pill for it. Sorry. God apparently didn't want you to get a boner. I don't know what to tell you. You know,
it's shocking. I go back to the religious debate and how much religion is steeped in that Alabama state constitution, and how, if they are so religious, how they could be so, I don't know, have such a disregard for the will of God.
Exactly. It's right?
Absolutely God can handle it himself, him or herself.
Exactly.
God doesn't need you.
Yeah. And they don't need God doesn't need you speaking for him either. You know what I mean?
That's what I mean. Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where, again, and I fear for women and men, families, honestly, that live in Alabama that have to deal with the repercussions of this now. I mean, a major hospital in Alabama is no longer doing IVF treatments. Now, the question is, what are they going to do with all those embryos that are in the freezer right now? Do you have to just pay to keep them frozen? Do you have to implant? I mean, what do you do? They're not doing the treatments.
Transfer them to a different IVF facility. And you say, you guys take it because we're not doing it anymore.
Is that child trafficking? I mean, what are we talking about here? What are we talking?
So ridiculous.
Right. So we're obviously going to be watching this very, very closely.
Well, here's what it should do. This asinine, ridiculous decision should, and because we know that women across America, for the most part, support reproductive rights, support the right to make your own choices, right?
Right.
So this kind of stupidity in an election year should raise the hackles of every woman to go out and to vote and to say, that's not what we want. Nikki Haley, you're not what we want. You can't tap dance around that kind of question. You can't say with one hand, an embryo is a baby, and with the other hand say, oh, and I had trouble. So I know what you mean. And it should be treated with the utmost respect. Should it be treated with respect? Yes. Should you stand up for the rights of women everywhere? Yes. Yeah. I get that. I'd agree with her on a fundamental level, but you know what? She's afraid to say it because she wants to be all things to all people. And the truth is, she's not all things to women.
No, she is not. She is literally sometimes the exact opposite of what I would say is being a successful modern woman. It's just she's trying to stand on both sides, and you can't both sides something like this. You just can't. Absolutely can't. Real quickly, because we're talking about this, and then in a few moments we'll go to Jefferson Graham, who, by the way, we touched on this yesterday. But what to do if your phone does drop in the toilet, like can happen to a lot of us. But there's this mom in California. She lives in Moore Park, and she is really done with the whole flower baby. So you did the egg, I did the egg, and I did the flower. Okay. But she is so over it. So she was telling Harper, she was talking about Harper, her daughter, that she's neurodivergent, has ADHD and other developmental issues. And she said a flower baby would be an added stressor to the day. So she asked her daughter, what would you do if you found out you were pregnant today? Mind you, her daughter's in 7th grade, which is usually when they do this sort of thing, right? And she said, I'd have an abortion. I can't have a baby when I'm in 7th grade. I can't even take care of myself. So the mom was like, okay, good. At least she's not a total like insane in the membrane.
Maroon, right?
Exactly. She's like, otherwise it's teaching abstinence or forced birth. She's like, if you deny my child the ability to have an abortion, then you're forcing my 12-year-old to give birth to a child. And she says that the whole flower baby, even egg baby activity is basically telling 7th graders, if you have sex and you get pregnant, you're going to have the baby. And she doesn't like that anymore. She's like,
I disagree with that, because you could have the egg baby or the flower baby and realize I can't do this, and that helps you make your decision down the road as to whether or not
that's a very good point.
I mean, that's ridiculous. It's an assignment, and it's to show you what type of responsibility is needed.
Really? The only thing I agree with is it doesn't teach you crap. Now, if they have those really, there's those babies.
It shows you never get to turn it off.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, no, a flower and an egg you can leave on the bed and get an F. But if they have those dolls that you have to like hold a key for 20 minutes to make it stop crying or something like that.
And it has a sensor. Yes.
But not everybody gets that. That's like hoity-toity schools that give you that. So a bag of flour and an egg taught me jack zero about raising a child. It was fun to carry around on the playground. But again, this is what we're still doing. In 2024, schools are thinking that, let's teach children about what it's like to have a young pregnancy by giving them a bag of flour or a raw egg. We really need to expand on that a little bit. And that's why I wanted to bring it up. I just feel like we're remaining so antiquated in how we talk about sex, how we talk about pregnancy, how we really debate things like when does life begin? And we are doing our children, our living, breathing children, a disservice, a big disservice by not having honest conversations about it. So I just wanted to add that story because I was just cracking up. I totally remember the flower baby. And it had to be like the heavy bag of flour, and people wrapped it in a blanket, and then some of them ripped, because I don't know about you, flour bags are not the most secure things in the world. So if somebody would always drop it and there'd be flour all over the place, and oh, Jesus. BA says, if the embryo had been frozen for 18 years, can it now vote in Alabama? Yeah, I mean,
great question.
It's such a good, but it gets ridiculous when you start thinking about stuff like that. Okay, let's switch gears. And thank you for everybody for sharing your stories. And thank you, Kim, because I wanted to save this story until you were here, because I know that you have a personal story when it comes to something like IVF and that technology. And I my heart goes out to people, especially in Alabama and now possibly in Florida, dealing with that.
There's some lady in Alabama who was in my boat.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's not gonna. And I got to have kids, and she's not gonna get to have kids.
Ugh, it's frustrating. Okay, we're gonna talk to Jefferson Graham in a minute. Also, what else? What were you gonna talk about today? We're gonna go back to talking about teens as well. Weight loss drugs in teens. That's getting crazy, especially in this age of Ozempic. And if we have time, we might have to save it for tomorrow. Should landlords be forced to allow anybody that wants to rent their property to bring a pet? Now, I am both somebody with a pet inside a rental and a landlord that has somebody in my house up in Sacramento. And so I'll share my thoughts. You guys let me know your thoughts as well. We'll do some headlines in between. But first, it is Thursday, Friday Eve, as I love to call it. And that means we always welcome our friend Jefferson Graham to the show.
Yay.
Ooh, I love your background, Jefferson. The purple is beautiful.
Thank you.
It's pretty sexy back there. Look at that.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to talk about babies, huh?
No, well, your phone might be your baby. You might baby your phone a lot. But Jefferson, I don't know if it's happened to you, but sometimes I put my baby in my back pocket and I go to the bathroom and then it falls into the toilet. And then what do I do?
Clean it.
Well, that would be the first thing. So I had mentioned this yesterday. Apple has come out and said, look, stop with this whole nonsense of when you get your phone wet, to put it in rice. Have you ever done that, Jefferson? Put it in rice?
Long time ago. Now, I don't think most people realize this, but I mean, this statement came out of, I mean, it was really weird because do you know how long phones have been water resistant? Okay, we have the iPhone 15, the 14, the 13, the 12, the 10, the 8, and the 7 have all been water resistant.
I didn't realize that.
Going back to 2017. Okay, so if you get your phone wet now, it doesn't really matter. They're water resistant. You can drop them as low as 20 feet in the water. You can dunk them in glasses of water. You can go swimming with them. You could bring them in a lake. You can take them in a pond. You could hold them under the falling waterfall. And it's all fine. They'll live on for another day.
What about the place where it plugs in? Won't the water get in the plug area?
Except for... They're all fine except for the charging port, which will be momentarily unusable for actually probably 3 to 4 hours, maybe as long as 5. So if you're going to go swimming with your phone, which I have done, get yourself a MagSafe charger. That's the little round thing that goes on the back of your phone. It sells for about $25 to $30. And you can then charge up the phone during that period.
Can you explain that a little bit? So I've seen the circle thing that goes on the back of your phone, but you'd still have to cover the port in some way.
No. The MagSafe goes on the back of your phone and then plugs into the power outlet.
I see.
Totally bypasses this.
Oh, okay. Al Anonymous says the plug area is where it's a problem. My charging port acted funny for weeks after water exposure. Let me know what kind of phone you have, Al Anonymous, so Jefferson knows. Now I have, and this is what I mentioned yesterday, I have an OtterBox, and it has the whole door that covers and it's pretty secure. I mean, it's on there. It seems pretty sealed. I do, of course, still have the openings for the mic, I guess, or where you talk into open. But I had my kids spilled water in the bathroom. It pooled around my phone. I wasn't worried about it. I just wiped it off and it was fine. But I have, and I don't know how it happened. I think my husband had dropped the end of the phone charger. Okay, so not my phone, but the phone charger in a glass of water. It was just like sitting in it. And I was like, the phone charger's in the water. And I had taken it out and I shook it. And then I tried to charge my phone a little bit after. And when I took the charger out, it said liquid detected or something like that on my phone. Yeah.
So usually that's what comes on and they let it dry off naturally. Okay. But I would not use a wet charging cable again because those are not water resistant.
Okay.
Getting back to the rice for a minute, they say don't put it in a bowl of rice because rice particles can get into the charging port and hurt it.
Yeah, I've experienced that.
And don't blow dry air into it either.
Why?
Because that it hurts it. So you just let it dry naturally.
It hurts its feelings, Kim. It hurts its feelings. It's like,
let it.
I know hot air when I see it, lady.
Let it dry naturally.
Okay, and about how long would you say? Now, let me ask you this. Hold on first. So the wet charging, it told me that there was liquid detected. I just pulled everything out. I let it sit there, and then eventually I put How long do you think it should take to dry something out like that?
Well, if you're going swimming, 4 to 5 hours.
I would never swim with my phone. I don't care what you tell me, Jefferson. That's just not happening.
I sent you a video of it.
I know. I'm going to show it. I'm going to show it.
Okay. And we had no problem whatsoever. I've taken it in lakes. I've taken it in ponds, in rivers, in fountains. I've done it all. And these phones live on. They live on. There's one, and here's a I can't reach. Here's another one.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to show the video.
Even with the little dots, like right next to the charging port, there's all the dots, right?
The speaker thing, like where you talk into it. Yeah.
Doesn't the water seep into the little holes?
Not a problem. The only problem is your touchscreen is unresponsive. And if you're going to take it in the pool, press record before you jump in.
All right. Yeah. Here's the video that you sent me, Jefferson.
I've been told for a very long time to not put phones in water.
But Zadie Krukolov's dad recently caved in and let her do it anyway, and the results are pretty awesome.
I can't talk myself into doing that.
Okay, so you don't have to show the whole thing.
Okay.
I just wanted to prove to you that you could take the phone underwater. Now, my tip is for the people like Nikki Maduro who says, I don't have the nerve.
No.
Again, the iPhones have been water resistant since 2017. Go buy a used, if you're planning on having some fun this summer, buy a used iPhone 12. I saw it online today for $200. Buy it, take it in the pool, have fun, destroy it if you think that it's going to be destroyed, but you'll get some pretty awesome footage.
And just to be clear, you are telling me no cover, no case, just the phone underwater.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's blowing my mind a little bit, Kim. What about you?
I don't think I'm doing the $200 experiment to make sure that it works. And Lori makes a good point. What about chlorine in the pool is probably bad for your phone, different than a lake or a river. Yeah, I don't think, you know what? I think I've paid enough for this that I'm just going to keep it safely on land.
It's the cost. I'm not going to risk it.
Okay.
I don't mean to doubt you.
I'm just saying the days of the rice is something, first of all, it's an urban myth. Secondly, just let it dry naturally. So I can't read these questions, but what are people saying?
Oh, BA says water resistant is not waterproof.
That's true.
How long can you keep it dunked underwater? That's my
30 minutes. 30 minutes per apple.
What do you mean per?
I mean, on an Apple, the Apple help page.
Okay.
Yeah, it says 30 minutes, up to 30 minutes.
Up to 30 minutes.
And no lower than 19.6 feet.
James says, I accidentally jumped in a lake with my phone. It was an Android in my pocket. I just removed the battery, let it dry out for a couple of days, and it was fine.
Yeah.
Let me just, okay, so you say 30 minutes. Well, what happens after 30 minutes?
I've never tried it.
Well, why does it work, at 29 and not 30 is my question. What happens?
I'm just telling you what the Apple page says. I'm just reporting
then
the news.
Water starts to seep in.
Exactly. It's like, where's it seeping in from? I feel like that's the problem.
Maybe the charger falls to pieces after it gets wet for 30 minutes.
Interesting.
I once spilled a very large drink of POG. You know what POG is? Pineapple, orange, guava.
Oh, yeah.
I was actually in the hospital and with having a baby, and I had my computer, my Apple computer, on my little hospital tray, and I was watching stuff, and I spilled the drink, and it went all over my computer, and my computer went dark.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, these are not water resistant.
The problem is that I tried to turn it back on. And when I tried to turn it back on, it shorted out. If it had just spilled and been allowed to dry out, it probably would have kept working. But because I tried to turn it back on and short out the whole system, that was the problem.
I don't know. Yeah. I guess that probably is what happened.
If
your phone gets that black, goes blue and then black, I'm sure that's probably not a good thing. Kim says salt water is probably worse for it than chlorine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like Apple makes these phones so expensive, Jefferson, that I believe you. You've proven it with that video that you can record underwater.
Mm-hmm.
I just, no. If I saw my husband be like, I'm going to dunk this phone that we just spent pretty penny for into the water, I'd be like, let's not. I could live without that photo. You are a professional and take awesome videos underwater. I just can't do it. I just can't do it. Brian also says the best thing to do is your best is to not let your phone get wet, but if it happens, don't use rice. Yeah, exactly. So where do you think the rice thing came from, though, Jefferson?
Urban myth, just an urban myth. But speaking of rice, this is a great segue for me to plug Fridays next Photo Walks TV. It's all about rice. No, it's not. But Photo Walks goes to Venice Beach, California, the most colorful spot in Los Angeles. And we go on a virtual photo walk and a photo shoot, and I show a whole bunch of all my best tricks. And we meet the woman in Venice Beach who for 30 years has been putting your name on a piece of rice.
Oh, I've seen that lady.
Wears a top hat. She pulls out these little pieces of rice, and then she writes your name on it for $8.
It's really cool. Yeah, we went to Venice, I want to say maybe 5 years ago. It's very eclectic. I will say that. It's a very eclectic place. Yes. So that's going to be posted on Photo Walks TV tomorrow?
Tomorrow morning at 6:00. Yes.
All right.
Pacific time.
Jefferson Graham of Photo Walks TV. You can find him right here on YouTube as well and on our show every Thursday. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to see the Venice Beach.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All right, so no rice, but if you have the huevos,
$8 for a grain of rice. You got to be kidding me.
well, how much do people pay when you go to the Great America or whatever, and you put 50 cents in to smash your penny?
Yeah, I've always thought that was ridiculous. I'm like, no.
I love when Kim says no. She's like, no. Like she's disappointed in you and that idea.
Paying you $50 to get a penny back in my hand that has a stamp on it.
50 cents. Well, I think it might actually be $1 now. But yeah, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Absolutely not. Okay, let's do some headlines. When we come back, I'm going to touch on two different topics. One, more teens apparently are turning to weight loss drugs to battle with childhood obesity. And here's my question. When everywhere you go on social media is talking about Ozempic, Oprah's on whatever, and they're losing all this weight. You know what it reminds me of, Kim? It reminds me of teenagers that wanted the nose jobs and the breast implants before they were even adults.
Yeah.
But my question is, if your child was severely overweight, and I mean obese, and it doesn't have to be severely, but just definition of obese, which again, some people have issues with the BMI and all that. Would you ever consider weight loss drugs to help them feel better about themselves and factor in their mental health? And then towards the end of the show, I want you guys to tell me, should landlords be forced to allow anybody that rents their home to have a pet? And I'm talking about a cat and a dog. I'm not talking about a peacock or a llama or anything like that. Like a dog or a cat, traditional pets in American homes. Should a landlord be forced to do it to help with the housing shortage? You guys let me know in the comments. Also, click the thumbs up button, show your support for the show, and let's do some headlines.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Oh, I love it. An investigation in today's cell phone outages looking into whether it's part of a cyber attack. Ooh. ABC News reports the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, and other agencies are looking into whether the cause is a cyber attack or just technical difficulties. AT&T said some of its customers are experiencing interruption and encouraging the use of Wi-Fi calling until service is restored. Shows you how vulnerable we are, though, and how much we've put all of our eggs into our cell phone basket, right? We've cut our landlines. We're just,
I mean, we might actually have to walk outside of our door, go up to another freaking human being and be like, what's going on? I initially thought when my snarkiness was like, oh, it's the landline people. They're like, turn off the cell phones. But cyber attack, absolutely. That seems... I know outages can happen, but that's immediately what I think of. Because remember, presidents, all the way back to Obama and probably before that, they always maintained the next war isn't going to be on the battlefield. It's going to be a cyber war, satellites, things like that. And if you think it's kind of, sci-fi-ish, think again. Think about how I'm communicating with you right now, right? It's... you got to be prepared. And again, I think it gives such credence to those who are against banning or getting rid of landlines to be like, see, this is why we need them.
Fear of criminal prosecution, the reason a major Alabama health system is pausing all in vitro fertilization procedures. UAB health system having its attorneys evaluate if doctors and patients can be prosecuted or held liable in civil lawsuits after this week's state Supreme Court ruling. The Alabama Supreme Court categorized frozen embryos as children who are therefore protected under the state's wrongful death laws with respect to minors. The top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee says the indictment of an ex-FBI informant destroys Republican efforts to impeach President Biden. House Republicans consider Alexander Smirnov to be a key witness in their allegations that the president participated in some type of influence peddling scheme and profited from his family's overseas business dealings while he was vice president. It revealed that Smirnov said he received his information about the Bidens from Russian intelligence. A trial averted after a settlement was reached in a civil suit involving a 22-year-old Long Island travel blogger who was murdered by her Florida fiance. The parents of Gabby Petito sued the fiance's parents and their attorney, claiming emotional distress by misleading them about Gabby's whereabouts before her body was found. Terms of the settlement have not been disclosed, but we do know there's a settlement in that case. In the Bay Area, 2 East Bay Catholic schools are shutting down, at least one, over safety concerns. The Oakland Diocese says St. Anthony's has seen a rise in crime, including human trafficking operations right near the campus. Parents received a notice 2 weeks ago. They were told other reasons include homelessness, unemployment, and a lack of affordable housing. Our Lady of Guadalupe in Fremont will also shut down at the end of the school year. It is unclear why. And I will tell you, the school in Petaluma called St. Vincent's, they're having a major fundraiser. They tried to break with the diocese, and they're afraid they're not going to stay open unless they can raise $250,000 from the community.
Which, I mean, how optimistic are you that they're going to be able to do it?
Well, if I could afford to help them pay for their school, then my kids wouldn't be in public school, right?
Well, I also think that people that that just growing up Catholic and going to Catholic school, there are people that have money. I mean, I know that some people get obviously financial aid and things like that.
Right.
But if you are raised in a family that values private and religious education and you want it to continue, I could see, even if you don't even live in Petaluma, being able to fundraise that amount of money.
Well, if you could argue that someone like me who doesn't send their children to a private school or to a religious school, I still benefit from having that in my community, because people will move here because they want to go to these schools or to have that option for people. So my community remains thriving because there's all these options for people that come here.
Exactly.
But I'm still not donating to that school.
Yeah.
And I think we all know why.
See earlier conversation. There you
go. Rewind. That's why. Oakland is celebrating a new grant to boost public safety. The state has awarded the city $3.5 million to expand its community policing program. This means more ambassadors will be added in downtown Oakland and Chinatown. They're trained to help de-escalate non-emergency calls, freeing up the first responders. The mayor says the program promotes safer, more secure streets while improving outcomes for people in crisis. What it says to me is we can't afford to hire more police officers.
Well, you saw her. I meant to pull the video, but I couldn't fit it in the story. She was having a press conference, Mayor Shang Tao, press conference yesterday, and all these people were protesting her because they don't feel like she's doing enough. She's trying to speak, and they're like fighting behind her.
Recall Shang Tao. Yeah.
The S is hitting the fan for Mayor Tao. So we'll see.
You know, everybody's got their hand out for money. And now there's talk of adding a toll lane on Highway 101. San Mateo County leaders are considering the idea as a way to reduce congestion between San Bruno and San Francisco. Critics argue that it could end up causing more traffic and more air pollution. Another option, convert an existing lane into an HOV express lane on a 7-mile stretch. An environmental review of both plans underway, with a decision expected by November. I'm betting they go with the option that makes them more money, which means a toll lane where you have to pay.
Exactly. I mean, and then also in the news, and we were talking about this earlier, the Golden Gate Bridge, $10. I think is what they're like, around $10 to cross the bridge is what they're considering. Can you imagine? Right now it's like 8 something, right?
It'll be I think it's $9.25. It'll be $13 if they enact this plan, which they say public comment, but what they mean is public comment because we have to, but
but it's going to happen. Yeah.
It's going to be more than $13 within 5 years to cross the Golden Gate.
And then if you have to pay for parking, I mean, it could cost you $50 a day just to go to work. And how many people are making $50 an hour? So you're using how many hours of your work time to pay to go to work? And they wonder why people want to work from home. It's crazy. I mean, I think about it. When I go to San Francisco, it costs me $24 to park. Every single time I work in San Francisco, $24, not mentioning gas or anything like that, just for parking. It's crazy. And now if I had to add on to that $13, give me a friggin' break over here. You know, now for me, yes, I mind, but I don't mind because it's, it's sporadic. If I had to do that every day,
that's crazy.
That's craziness.
No.
It's insane.
I mean, when it starts to be cost prohibitive to go to your workplace.
Exactly. And
there's a
it's
problem.
It's a huge problem. And again, I understand I know people pay for parking. I know people take, public transportation because they can't afford parking or they can't afford the toll and all, but that still costs. It's not free. I mean, I understand gas and all that. Gas prices are going to start going up in California. You know that. So 'tis the season. So I just on a side note, I was meeting with my financial advisor yesterday and he put
I
out
love that you have a financial advisor. It makes you sound so hoity-toity.
I'm not, but believe me. But he put it into pretty stark terms of like when, like, forecasting out. Basically, we can live if everything stays the same till we're 80, and then we're kind of up a creek.
Oh no.
Well, no, that's just like if we don't make any more income, if we don't consider, you know what I mean? Like, but no, but what was scary to me is he adjusted for inflation. That's the problem because they're factoring in how much inflation is going to go up and eating into the retirement fund that we have. And it's crazy when you think about that. And they were interviewing a guy about the Golden Gate Bridge toll. And he's like, look, they're raising it. My pension's not going up.
No.
The people on a fixed income, they're not. And this is what turns people, anti, social safety nets and things like that. It's like, where are you getting the money? Because you can't get it from me. I don't have any more money. I'm not making any more money. I'm retired. I was at the dollar store yesterday with my son, an elderly man, and it's not offensive to say it because he said he was 80. I think he said he was 80 or almost in his 80s. And because he looked at my son, he's like, don't get married until you're 80. He's like, because my wife, we've been married forever. He's like, I retired at 65 and then she sent me back out to work because we need more money. So he's telling me, I was like, oh my God. But that's the reality.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Sam. And so good to have you back,
Welcome
Sam,
home.
with the $10 donation. Happy to be back after being 6 weeks in Jordan. Good to see you all. So happy to see your face back in here.
Yeah.
Glad you are back. Glad. And since I'm doing thank yous, thank you to Jess as well, who donated $5 to our super chat.
Yay.
Thank you.
Okay, last story.
Yeah.
Do you remember she used to be on when we were on the show or right after we were on the show, this woman, Wendy Williams.
Oh my God. Yes. I've been following really, it's sad. It's a really sad what's happened. Or go ahead.
Well, she's a former TV talk show host. She used to have a daytime TV show. She says she is facing the same diagnosis as actor Bruce Willis. Her team announced she's 59. They say she's been diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia and aphasia. They say she underwent testing in 2023 after her memory started to fail. Yeah. So
well, you'll remember she was on her show live and she passed out like in the middle, like she totally, and people thought she was on drugs and having all sorts. So I'm wondering if but yeah, she couldn't do her show anymore. She was supposed to come back, I think during COVID. She took time off and then she never ended up coming back. Oh my God. Sherry Shepherd has her slot because she filled in for Wendy Williams so much. She got her own show.
Yeah.
So she was doing Wendy's show, and then after a while, they're like, Wendy ain't coming back. So this is probably why. That's sad. That's really sad.
Is sad. Yeah.
Oh, well, obviously our hearts go out to her. She had a fun show. Like, how you doing? I think is what she used to say all the time. It was kind of one of those shows that came on after we got off air, and it would kind of be on the background as I was prepping for the next day. And so I'd have it on. It was okay. Celebrity, pop culture type of show. But that's sad because she's really young. She is.
She is really young, 59, to be suffering from this.
Exactly.
And apparently having quite a bit of struggles in her life. So
that's sad.
It's funny. There's a story that I really want to play, but I can't. I want to play it because it's one of these stories that's audio only.
Okay.
So, but the title of it excites me, and it's called Dishwasher Tetris.
Dishwasher Tetris. Oh, is this supposed to teach you how to load your dishwasher properly? Because my husband would love this.
Yes. It's organizing your dishwasher using your Tetris skills. And I am telling you, I have had this skill for years. And I think it comes from playing Tetris. My husband will say, I can't fit everything in there. And I'll say, let me try.
But you're overloading your dishwasher.
No. I just have a
Look how excited she gets about it. Look at this
everything and it drives me crazy if I open the dishwasher and I see that it is not
full.
It is not organized properly. like the coffee cups are not turned the way to fit more things in.
Oh,
Like
you're
this
like
is a
my
problem.
husband.
This is a problem. If it looks like this, it makes me, I'm telling you, this makes me like, I get itchy. I can't.
I kind of want, I wish I could get up and take the camera with me to show you how my dishwasher, my husband hates how I load my dishwasher.
Would you look at this? Like this is,
oh, that's like my kids. That's how my
No.
kids would load the
This
dishwasher.
is unacceptable. I feel like my sense of order has been, thrashed here. This can't stand. First of all, there's plastic in the dishwasher. We know how I feel about plastic in the dishwasher.
Yes.
But second of all, things are just willy-nilly. You don't put the bowls where the cups are. What happened here? This is wrong.
So you would hate how I do it. So if the bowl is small enough, it goes on the top because my plates all go on the bottom. I do that. I try to keep, the coffee cups all face the same way because I try to keep the handle between the tongs. You know what I mean? So it kind of helps it not move around. But my husband hates how I load the dishwasher. And I say, there's a solution. I just will never load it again. Knock yourself out. I don't need to load the friggin' dishwasher. I will give that to you willingly. But yeah, he is so like you, Kim. He's just like, he will open it up. And it's so funny because my husband is very even tempered. But so really when he's frustrated, it's as big. Like I'm a screaming, yelling mess, right? He just goes, his arms just go up, and that's his frustrated face. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I go, it fit.
I'm
And then
like,
just load it. It's
what
fine."
happened here? This is not
Yeah.
cool. So this is a report by a reporter. Her name is Bree Dennis. And I need to play it because I need to hear it. I need to hear what she has to tell me about
Okay,
using
let's
Tetris
listen.
to organize your dishwasher. Hopefully you'll be able to, it'll be loud enough.
Let's see.
Oh, it's not loud enough.
It's not loud
No,
enough.
it's not loud enough. Anyway, I'll look up a little bit more information on using Tetris to load your dishwasher, but I think
There
there's
you
a new
go.
training thing happening where they've come out with, here's where the cups go, here's where the plates go,
I
here's
could
how you
not
organize
care
it.
less. I could.
Yes.
I feel like people that want other people to take the test are not the people that are going to be watching it. Like you would watch, you're like, yes. And then me, people who could give a rat's ass,
You're
is
like,
like, yeah, no,
whatever.
never mind.
Yeah.
Like, you could just go ahead, take that knowledge and go with God and fix the dishwasher because I have zero time and brain space to give to. Look, it is not my life's goal to be a good dishwasher loader. So I'm not going to waste any freaking time doing it. Sorry.
I'm not
it's
very
just not gonna
domestic,
happen.
but there are certain things that where my skills shine. And that includes organizing the towel closet, right?
No.
Spatially organizing the dishwasher, folding laundry. These are my, making the little lines with my vacuum cleaner on the carpet. Don't I sound
Oh,
OCD?
Yeah,
But these
a little
these
bit.
are things that I can do. Everything
Could
else.
not care less. Yeah. I mean, I get a little frazzled. I don't, so my husband can always tell when I'm frazzled about like if I need to do something around the house, like this tomorrow, my daughter's birthday, I'm going to have kids over. Not that the kids could give a crap, but
No.
the house has to get clean because
Yeah.
it's just going to get destroyed, but it has to be clean. Right.
Right.
And if I don't have enough help, I get very, very, very frustrated.
Agitated?
Especially if my in-laws are coming over and my parents like, come on. But
I think that's totally normal.
that's normal.
Yeah.
But if I had everyone coming over, the last, I think it wouldn't even be on the list, is how my dishwasher was loaded. Is it running? Good. That's as much as I care about. No. But I appreciate it. The world needs people like you, and the world needs people like me, right? It's called balance, people.
That's right.
Balance.
This is
There you
true.
go.
This is true. This report is sponsored by you. That
It
means
is.
we do rely on you to crowdfund this Tetris-based Nikki Maduro show. Find us at thenikkimaduroshow.com, thenikkimaduroshow.com. The ways to support the show are all there listed for you, including the Patreon, the PayPal. Of course, the super chats and super stickers are open and ready for you here on YouTube as well. I'm Kim McAllister. This is the Nikki Maduro Show.
Thank you, Kim. And you were gone, obviously, the first half of this week. And I had a couple of interviews, and they had to do with sleep. And I've been telling you about this, that I had these interviews coming up with sleep. One was the Restful Sleep MD, and the other was the CEO of the Nap Bar. And I was telling people, remember I gave out the survey that's still, you can find all of this in the show notes, by the way. The February survey was all about self-improvement, Kim. And I will tell you, most of the Nikki Maduro Show listeners want to improve their sleep / mindfulness, right? Being more mindful of their body and their sleep and eating. And so we're creating this other social media community. And you can find it on Facebook or Instagram at Get Some Z's. I had to be cute with the name because ZZZZ was taken. Get Some Z's, Z-E-E-Z. You can find us there. And if you want to improve your sleep, I created absolutely free, and it's paper, so you can download it and print it as many times as you want. So, Kim, if you want to improve your sleep as well, who doesn't? It's upside down. This paper sleep tracker. Okay. And you can find the link in the show notes. You can also find it on the socials. And I've been tracking my sleep. This is each page is 1 week long, and you have to start there. And then I'll be continuing to do different interviews and things like that regarding sleep. But I wanted to throw that in because I have not mentioned it yet. So you can find all the description in the show notes because it's important to take care of your health, and it starts with your sleep.
But you know how I feel about this is if you think about it too much,
right,
then you stress yourself out about it.
Right.
If I'm filling in the chart, then I'm stressing out about it.
But you do. So this is actually, and the Fitbit, you kind of, I was talking to one of the doctors about the Fitbit and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
If you're wearing it when you're sleeping, and then you kind of had this thing. But this, they do say pen to paper or pencil to paper. It triggers a different part of the mind. And this isn't supposed to stress you out. It's supposed to make you aware. It's kind of like a food diary, right?
Yeah.
Whenever anybody wants to lose weight, and this is a good transition into our next story, write down everything you're eating when you're eating, because when you're mindful about it, then you eat better. Like, do I really need to have the rest of this key lime pie that's sitting next to me right here, right?
Yes, you do.
I do. It's a mini one. I'll totally talk about. But when you write down your sleep, you're aware of, did I have caffeine? Did I do the bare minimum to make my sleep better? Did I turn off my electronics at least an hour before bed? If you didn't, then you know what you can do to improve yourself. So, Vicki, I'm so glad you printed it out and started filling it out. Let me know how it goes, and anybody else, let me know how it goes as well. But I just wanted to mention that too. Now, let's move into the weight loss of teens. My question to you guys is this. I saw this thing on social media yesterday, and it was a toddler who's kind of chunky, a chunky toddler. Okay. We've seen them, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you need to feed your toddler less, blah, blah, blah. And then they showed a picture several years later, and the kid was totally quote unquote normal weight, right? Didn't look chunky anymore at all, because babies, toddlers, they're kind of growing into their bodies, right? And so you have to give them time.
And
exactly. It takes a while.
Kids grow in a different way where sometimes they chunk up a little,
yes,
and then they grow, and then they look everything's fine, and then they chunk up a little, and then they grow. You know.
Oh, I know a kid. I knew him from very little, and now he's an adult, and he went through a chunky phase.
Yeah.
But he was an active kid. Like, I don't think that he was overeating. It was just, bulking up to grow up. Here is a news report regarding, though, this growing use of weight loss drugs among teenagers. And I think that in this age where now it's as easy as a shot for people to lose weight, that's very enticing for teenagers. Oh, there we go.
Got 2 second places and a first place.
16-year-old Demi Buckley never thought about her weight until 6th grade.
I gained 20 pounds that summer.
She says the extra pounds started to affect her mental health.
There was this boy in my class, and he told me to eat a salad or eat nothing. It's brand new.
A year ago, she started Wegovy.
And I'll just put it right in my stomach right there.
The drug suppresses appetite. Buckley shed 58 pounds.
What were some of the things that you did before these medicines to try and lose weight?
I've done volleyball, cheer, basketball, and marching band. I would do the same workouts as my friends or eat the same way they did. And
what parent doesn't want their child to have every opportunity to be as healthy as they can be?
More than 20% of 12 to 19-year-olds are considered obese. Obesity specialists say these meds, along with a healthy lifestyle, can be used preventatively to tackle excess weight before it leads to other health conditions like diabetes, heart disease, and high blood pressure. Which is why the American Academy of Pediatrics now recommends weight loss drugs be offered to those as young as 12.
What?
Dr. Amanda Velasquez is the director of obesity medicine at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center and a paid consultant for weight loss drug makers Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly.
What do you say to people who say 12 is too young to put a child on a weight loss medication?
Yeah, I think that it's about education for the family, because I think there's a lot of perception about using the medication for really appearances. That's not what we're here to do. What we're here to do is help to your patient, a 12-year-old, be healthy.
But there are possible side effects like nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pain. Doctors at UC Irvine say they're worried these drugs could affect kids' growth from undereating or be abused by those with eating disorders or in sports. Some also question whether kids need to use these drugs long term.
What do you say to people who think the data is not there, or that we don't know the long-term effects for young people?
Yeah, so these medications, I think, are reassuring in that they've been around, over a decade.
In a statement, Wegovy's maker Novo Nordisk says its studies found their medicines did not appear to affect growth, adding the decision to prescribe an anti-obesity medication is at the discretion of the physician. Demi Buckley says she has benefited physically and mentally.
Now that I'm confident in my body and I can be confident in my mind, and that helps me a lot.
Okay, I'm just going to stop it right there. You're also on national television telling everybody that you took a weight loss drug, and I'm not knocking it. Look, I will tell you this. I have no problem if people want to make this personal decision to do whatever they need to do to be, if you want to have a boob job, nose job, weight loss, as long as you're healthy and you're not abusing it and you're working with your doctor and it's in a safe way, who am I to judge, right? Your body, your choice. But when it comes to teens and their bodies can change so much, I'm a bit torn because on one hand, if my kid was obese, now literally not, they want to lose 10 pounds, but was obese and was depressed, not being bullied, I would have serious thoughts of, okay, well, is a shot going to help my kid in other areas? On the other hand, God, it just seems to me it might just be, a Band-Aid on a larger problem that we need to get to the bottom of. Does that make sense?
It does. I worry. Women in my family, girls in my family, have this thing where when they're going through puberty, like 11, 12, 10, 11, 12, they chunk up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like right before they get their period.
Right.
So when you say you're going to give a 12-year-old girl weight loss medicine,
right.
I wonder, does that affect their, the natural order of their
body development,
their body and developing and things like that? And I worry about that. I don't necessarily like the idea, but I also don't like the idea of kids getting teased or, I think it should be used in extreme situations. And we've all seen a kid,
right,
that is massively overweight.
Of course, right.
That really might be benefited by, have benefits by this. So, I mean, there's always a case where it makes sense, but if you're going to just say, everyone who's got a weight problem, no, because I disagree with what that doctor said, which is, these, when she's asked about side effects, these drugs have been around for a while. Have they? Because
a decade.
How long has Ozempic been around? I've only started hearing about it within the last year.
I feel like they discovered something with Ozempic, like the drug for diabetes patients has been around. And now all of a sudden they're like, we can start marketing it this other way. That's what I think happened.
It seems like every time there's a magic weight loss drug, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, there's remember that drug that they marketed that had it was supposed to be this miracle weight loss drug and everyone started taking it and then they realized, it affects your heart.
Oh, I thought it was going to be the one that made you leak out of your butt.
Oh, there's that one. But no, this is the other one where it was a pill that you took. And, of course it made your heart beat faster. It made you want to exercise, made you have more energy because,
speed.
your heart was beating faster. And then they're like, doctors are like, this is bad for your heart. Don't take it. And by that time, everyone who had taken it was worried that they had some type of heart damage. And that's what I worry about with medicine like this. And again, there are extreme cases where maybe the side effects are worth exploring, whether the drug would work for someone.
Because if you're going to be a high risk of stroke and all those sorts of things. Now, Jerry O'Connell is the person. Hold on just one second. Yeah. That's who I'm showing, the guy on the left. He was the chunky kid from Stand By Me. Yeah. And he obviously grew up. And now he does Pictionary on television. By the way, he's the host of Pictionary. But look at him. I mean, there's an ad now. But he lost a lot of weight. And that's what I'm just I wanted to show that because obviously kids can grow out of their obesity.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, they can grow out of their obesity. I don't know. I forgot what I was saying. I'm
worry.
Sorry. Oh, I was going to say, I worry that, that kids are going to use this because I want to look better in my cheerleading skirt. And that's not what we do.
But that's what adults do, Kim. How many women do you know that's just like, I just need to lose? They do. I just want to lose 10, 15 pounds because I have a reunion coming up. People do that all of this. So when you're a mom or you're, influencing young kids, and I'll say boys too, when they hear you talking this way, right? Oh God, if only I could lose this amount. Now, I will say this. Have I ever looked and been like, God, I need to, slim down? Of course I've thought it. But you want to know what I say to my kids all the time? I look hot as bleep. Like I try to overemphasize, even if, whatever. Just because God, like if like, for instance, if I'm talking about my butt, I'm like, you can't wait to have a butt as round as this, right? Like you want to kind of build it up because there's no shame in having, for me as a woman, a womanly body, right? Women are supposed to, in my opinion, and I would say this hands down, women are supposed to, damn it, have curves. We're supposed to have that pooch in the front. You know why? Because God made us that way for all you religious people. And because it protects all of those organs that we're supposed to have. Like we're supposed to look that way.
Maybe taking Ozempic is going against God and nature.
There you go. I'll get people to stop taking it.
There's a kid who's massively obese in my neighborhood, and I see him walking for hours and hours every week, and nothing seems to help him. Might be a case where this would work for him. I know. And see, that's what I mean.
Yes.
In these extreme cases where you can stave off, diabetes or other health-related issues, maybe it's warranted. Jacob the other day, who just turned 10 years old, he says, I'm not so happy with my belly.
Oh, baby.
And I was like, oh, okay. Well, maybe we need to get out and exercise a little bit more. He plays basketball. He's active.
He's active, yeah.
But I said, and maybe, and we need to not have second dinners. It's like, rein it in a little bit. It's all about how many calories you burn versus
exactly.
And I go, maybe we should cut down on the sugar a little bit. And he goes, I'm actually happy with how much sugar I eat. I'm like, oh, okay.
I love it. He's like, whoa. Maybe
I won't have a second helping at dinner, but the sugar thing, I'm not willing to give that up.
Yeah.
Okay,
well, he's a kid. He's 10. What do you expect him to say? Heather says case by case basis, but maybe the parent should be required to take nutrition and parenting classes. I mean, it's what you offer in the home. I will maintain, obviously when you, especially, and you know this, Kim, you have teenagers and they just like Jacob, I don't want to give up the sugar. You can present healthy foods at dinner, right? You can, unless you're force feeding your teenager and watching them 24/7, you can only do so much. And I tell my kids that as well. I'm like, look, that's not healthy. You shouldn't eat, half a box of goldfish every day, or whatever. It's not, eat an apple, eat a banana. I present this. I have these foods available. I ask you if you want them, but I'm not going to force feed it to you. There is a personal responsibility as a parent. I need to provide it, but I'm not force feeding my children. Maybe some other parents are, but there are consequences to it. Now I have small kids. If I was seeing there was some sort of health aspect, besides my daughter's Crohn's, but if there was a health aspect to it, I'd be like, look, we're not even introducing this food into our house because I don't want you to have it. I try not to have these, sugary chips, and we do have chips and stuff like that occasionally in our house. But if it's not there, they're going to have to go seek it and pay for it. But it's tough. I mean, if my kid was suffering from depression, it'd be a conversation. If it was like Kim mentioned, my kid's totally active, walking around and still getting bigger, and it's leading to health problems, high cholesterol, all those sorts of things, then we're going to have to start talking about medication, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong.
Is your kid active, or is your kid sitting in a chair playing video games all day long?
Exactly.
Like, have you encouraged? So I have a rule. Here's another Kim rule. I have a rule that you always have to be doing at least one
active thing.
And for Jacob, he has to go to karate 3 times a week.
Oh,
and he's now in a basketball league. So he's got 2 going on here, right? So you have to pick. Julia, by the way, she has another problem. She just doesn't like to eat. And so she'll go, like, even at a family dinner, she'll be like, I'm not hungry. No, until she gets to the point of hangry.
Yes.
Right? Where then she's ravenous, and then she'll eat. So like later in the evening past dinner, and I'm trying to get her to figure out, like, if you just eat normally earlier on, then you won't get to the point where you're freaking out over food later in the evening. So,
and you overeat oftentimes when you're hungry. I know I do that because besides my key lime pie that I've been snacking on, I usually don't eat until after this show, and I'm behind the computer for a couple hours after this show. So by the time I'm really truly eating, it's 1:00 in the afternoon, and I do try to eat a nice decent meal. And I don't have any shame in it because it's like, look, I haven't been eating all day. I'm going to eat something. And usually it's my one whole zucchini that I love and maybe something else, a piece of chicken or something, but it's fine because I know. I will tell you this, as I've gotten older, I never used to have a sweet tooth. And now all of a sudden it's like, I want a sweet treat at night, but you gotta watch it. Right.
Yeah.
Murphy says, oh, go ahead. Read it.
She just said that 4 years ago, she lost 50 pounds and it changed her life.
Nice.
No more joint pain, no more headaches from blood sugar spikes and crashes. Well done.
And if you're an adult, and let's take it away from the teenagers for a bit, but if you're an adult and you're overweight and you want to talk to your doctor about some of this medicine and really ask the questions, how long has it been around? What are the side effects? Does this outweigh the risk of this other side effect from being obese? Do it. I mean, we always used to say, right, if only there was a magic pill or a shot that could keep, there is, but it's not for everybody. If you have 10 pounds to lose and it's annoying, and I can see how it's annoying if you just really, really want to lose that 10 pounds, okay, but your health isn't being impacted by 10 friggin' pounds. If you're 20, 30, 40, 50 and up overweight, I would have the conversation because I do think that it does shorten your life. Like Murphy mentioned, can you imagine carrying an extra 50 pounds on you? And how good it has to feel if you don't have it on you anymore. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't want to shame people that might be on these weight loss, whether it's the shots or the medication, because there is a role for that. There's a role for science. There is a role for pharma in there. But I do think that there should be evidence of trying to lose weight on your own. Lori says tracking food and using weighted food really helps you know how many calories you're really taking in. And honestly, because people often eat the same things over and over again, like you like what you like. Once you start measuring out food, so you get a food scale, you start knowing it. You don't have to use the scale every time, right? You're like, that's what, 8 ounces looks like. That's what 4 ounces looks like. I know how much a cup is now. And so of the foods that you normally eat. So maybe in the beginning, it's a little annoying. Maybe you have to write it down for a couple of weeks, but tracking things, whether it's your sleep or whether it's your food, can help you be aware of how much you're actually eating. And it's important.
We have a friend in common from our KGO days who went through the gastric bypass surgery.
Yes.
And here's the thing that gets me about this is before you have this surgery, they tell you need to lose X amount of weight before we'll consider doing the surgery.
Right.
So then the person that struggles with weight loss has to go and lose, I don't know, say it's 50 pounds before they have the surgery.
Jeez, that's a lot.
Well, if you showed you can just lose 50 pounds on your own,
then why do you need the surgery?
Then why do you need someone to cut into you or do something that could have side effects like, I don't know, their gastrointestinal issues for life?
Right.
Why wouldn't you just, if you showed you can lose 50 pounds, keep going?
Well, I think it's the yo-yoing that's probably the hardest part for some of these people. It's the constant, like, I lose it and I gain it back, and I lose it and I gain it back. It's not that I don't know. And again, it could be a number of things. It could be hormonal. It could be, all right, I've tried to lose 50 pounds and I can't.
It's
like
hard.
I have a food diary and I'm doing all of these other things and I'm still not losing it. So if there's evidence of you trying, if you're keeping a food diary, if you're exercising, if you're doing all these things and you still aren't losing the weight, then you have to talk to your doctor about next steps. I'm not a physician, of course, but I think the conversation should be had, and it's not as easy as calories in, calories out for some people. You know what I mean? It's just not. So, all right, that is our show. Again, you guys, thank you to everybody that donated to our live chat. Thank you to Jess, who came in with $5 and $5 twice. Thank you. Doug came in with $5 as well, and Sam, so happy to see your face back on the show with a $10 donation. Please, you guys, become an official Madorable by signing up for our Patreon. It keeps this show on the air. If you like what we're doing, you could show it in this way by going to thenikkimadoroshow.com, signing up for our Patreon. Also, PayPal. We love PayPal. Go to paypal.com. The email is thenikkimadoroshow.com, thenikkimadoroshow.com. We weren't able to get to the pets topic, so we'll get to that tomorrow. I am going to get that, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, this Italian pastry. I showed it to my husband and he's like, yes, we're getting that. It was mentioned yesterday during our show. I'm going to go get that. So that'll be on our Friday food segment. If you're in the San Jose area, please support the Giving Pies who got screwed by Tesla. Get the mini pies. They have a lot of them. They're really good. They're delicious. So go check them out as well. Also, the free sleep diary is in the show notes. So if you want to download that as well, you can get that there. And I love you guys. Tomorrow, John Rothman will also join us. So a fun show there. Tim Sika with movies. I love Fridays. I love
happy
Fridays.
birthday to Marley. Woo!
And it's my daughter's birthday tomorrow. So very excited. I'm in labor right now. 15 years ago today. All right, guys. Until tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're all so the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.